What's up, everybody? It's Josh coming at you from Nerdventures Tower, and we are in the age of Moon Knight now. I'm pumped for this show, man, and I rarely say this when it comes to the MCU and the Star Wars shows, but I think this show could be something special. Moon Knight is the perfect character for an MCU adaptation. I want to explain why that is. I want to preview what to expect in the show and what to expect in this first episode. By the way, we'll be doing watch parties and live breakdowns over on our live streaming channel for the whole duration of Moon Knight, and then we'll roll right into watch parties for Kenobi. It's gonna be a good couple of months. Who's Moon Knight and why is he primed for incredible MCU content? Well, he is a very interesting comic book character that has a sweet mystical origin, awesome Batman-like gadgets, multiple personalities, and a weird Warren Ellis retcon where these multiple personalities end up becoming aspects of Khonshu. It was also Warren Ellis's run that gave us the Mr. Knight persona, who in the comic books is a version of Moon Knight referred to as Mr. Knight, basically so that the cops can still work with him as Moon Knight is on the naughty list. And like everything in the MCU, Moon Knight is not going to be an adaptation of any particular comic book story, but rather draw inspiration from all of the crazy comic book things that have been done with the Moon Knight character. And that's freaking awesome, but you add into that fact that Marvel Studios is going to be taking some really crazy cinematic inspiration as well, and you get this wonderful blending. I feel like this is primed to be something awesome, just like WandaVision. I mean, with WandaVision, you have the character of Wanda Maximoff, who is insanely powerful. You have this whole House of M inspiration, which was a wild story from the comics, and then you bring into it different eras of television, and the way they blended all of that together made a really compelling week-to-week watch. And Moon Knight is going to be doing the same. I mean, some of the inspiration that they are pulling on from television and movies is crazy cool, and I think gonna really make the show dope. In one of the featurettes for Moon Knight, May Calamaway actually referred to the show as Fight Club meets Indiana Jones, and that's the coolest freaking logline I've ever heard for a television movie thing ever. Many insiders and scoopers have referred to the show as having a Memento type vibe, which is one of my favorite movies, but it also gives us a huge clue as to what to expect for this show and for the first episode. Memento is a movie about a guy who has a short-term memory condition. He can't make new memories, and so he leaves himself all of these little clues to eventually reveal the truth of his situation and who he can trust around him. And so the belief is that the narrative in this show will involve the Oscar Isaac character uncovering mysteries that he doesn't remember about himself. And there'll be a little extra added element with the multiple personalities. I mean, we've seen in the trailers Mark Spector, who's the first person in the comic books. He's like the first persona of the Moon Knight character. He's literally having discussions with Stephen Grant in the trailers. In the comic books, the Stephen Grant persona was first created by Mark Spector to give him access to different billionaires and to know what's going on from the perspective of very wealthy people. I mean, what happens in the comics, at the little TLDR for the Mark Spector or the Moon Knight character, he's a mercenary, he has a change of heart, tries to defend some innocent people in Egypt, gets gunned down, and then is resurrected by the god Khonshu to be his tool or vessel for vengeance or justice. And so Mark goes back to the States and creates the persona of Stephen Grant to have access to billionaires. He creates another persona, Jake Lockley, who is just an everyday cabbie so that he can keep his fingers on the pulse of what is happening at the street level. And with these different personas, he's able to know what's going on as far as crime. It's later revealed or retconned in Jeff Lemire's run that the Mark Spector character actually has multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder, as it is actually known. And in that part of the comic books, it's revealed that he's like kind of crazy. These personalities are actually their own unique things. They exist within him. It's a real thing. And the show itself consulted actual medical professionals and psychologists to depict the mental illness and the dissociative identity disorder in the show very accurately. But what's interesting about that is that all gets retconned in the Warren Ellis run when you learn that Khonshu as a god has different aspects that have manifested into these different personalities. But unlike in the comic book, Stephen Grant doesn't seem to be a creation of Mark Spector, and he's definitely not a billionaire Bruce Wayne type dude. Instead, he seems to be some paranoid worker at a museum in London. And we're pretty certain that's how the first episode is going to go. We're going to come in on the Stephen Grant character. He's going to be having all of these different troubles, and he's going to be investigating the mystery of his missing memories, the way he doesn't know what's real, and all of this craziness that's surrounding him. We've seen a ton of sequences in the trailers of him finding different keys, of him putting sand around his bed and chaining himself to the bed to make sure that he doesn't leave when he is asleep. And all that's probably going to culminate in him having a conversation with Mark Spector and realizing that there is this other personality that is him, or that he shares the body with. And if I was a betting man, that's what I would bet on the majority of episode 1 to be about, doing this weird sort of mystical, journey where he's finding these memento-like clues about his real personality or the Mark Spector personality. And I think we'll sort of have that fleshed out. And I think he will interact with Ethan Hawke's character, but I don't know that he will actually take on the form of Moon Knight or Mr. Knight in episode 1. Perhaps he will. Maybe that happens at the end of the first episode. But I kind of believe that what we're in for the first episode is being introduced to Stephen Grant, and then eventually realizing that there's this Mark Spector character, having some of that mystery, dangled in front of us, and then leaving a lot of that and the action for episode 2. Now, I could be wrong, and I would absolutely love to see Moon Knight or Mr. Knight beating up a bunch of baddies in episode 1, perhaps at the end of the episode, but they've got 6 episodes. These all appear to be 45-minute plus episodes, so I think that we will get there, and I'm not going to be upset if there's not a lot of action in episode 1. I think that a lot of the show is going to rely on Oscar Isaac's performance and the direction and the mystery and the mysticism that's going on, and I'm excited for all of that. I mean, I definitely want my Moon Knight action for sure, but I think that a lot of the show is going to revolve around that idea, similar to the early episodes of WandaVision. Now, there's one other thing about this, though, that I do want to make clear, and that's that I don't believe there's going to be all these little connections or all these little Easter eggs that tie into the other aspects of the MCU. That's one thing that WandaVision had that Moon Knight is not likely to have, at least not until the end of the show. This is because, of course, Wanda was in the MCU. She's an integral part of a lot of different storylines that were going on, and so there's a lot of connection in her fake world and in the flashbacks and the things that we see outside of the hexagon that she creates in Westview. Moon Knight's not going to be like that. He doesn't have connections to other MCU characters, so I don't think a lot of that stuff is going to be happening, and instead, I think a lot of the hype and the buzz and the discussion on social media is going to be about what is actually going on with the Stephen Grant and Mark Spector character and the Ethan Hawke character. There's a mystery there, and again, it's not going to be exactly like what was happening in the comic books, which to me is totally cool because it makes me excited and interested to know how it's actually going to play out in the show. What do you expect from episode 1 of Moon Knight? Are you super excited for the show? Are you going to maybe check it out? And if people say it's really cool, you'll get into it. Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comment section below. Again, make sure you're checking out our live streaming channel because we're going to be doing watch parties, doing breakdowns live, having a ton of fun with the Moon Knight show. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.